Welcome to Your Pathways to Wealth, the podcast where we explore what wealth truly means, because it's different for everyone. I'm Charles Massimo, and along with my partner, Peter Anastasian, we'll dive into strategies, stories, and insights that help you define, grow, and enjoy your wealth on your terms. So let's navigate this journey together.
Join Charlie and Peter and their guest experts as they venture to help you continue to grow your wealth.
Welcome to Your Pathways to Wealth, where we bring the stories, insights, and strategies that help families build, protect, and live their wealth with intention. I'm your host, Charlie Massimo, and as always with my co-host, Peter Anastasian. Today's episode is a deeply meaningful one. We're talking about planning for a loved one with special needs. For many of my clients, they know this is a subject close to my heart as I raise two boys on the spectrum, and it's also close to the heart of our guest as well. I'm honored to welcome Kelly Piacenti, head of special care program at MassMutual, a national expert in special needs planning and a fellow parent walking the journey. Kelly brings not just professional expertise, but personal experience, making her one of the most empathetic and informed voices in this space. So let's get started. Kelly, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited personally and professionally to have you on our call today.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlie. It's nice to join you and Peter today. Thank you
Great.
so much for having me.
Kelly, can we start with your personal journey first? And how did you become to lead the special care program? And where was your own interest in wanting to do this with MassMutual?
It started probably about 20 plus years ago. I actually came from MetLife. I was part of the MetLife MassMutual merger. So I was with MetLife for 25 years. And during that 25 years, I had 4 children. One of my sons, my third son, Nicholas, he suffocated in the birthing process and sustained a massive brain injury. Nicholas could only smile. And we had a lot of resources. My husband was an attorney. All my other children are. But what we were finding is that we didn't have financial resources to help us with planning for my son. So I was at MetLife and I was asked to join their special needs program to help the advisors and the families advocate for the one that they were caring for that may have had a special need. So I started my journey when it was very difficult years ago to get any type of support or services. We were told that when you had a child with a disability, you should disinherit them or give the money to somebody else, which is a terrible advice. But years ago, our families were limited in what we were being told. So I started up a program that rolled into MassMutual 8 years ago that basically helped advisors become educated about planning for individuals with special needs, advising them of all the rights and different things that were available to our families. Unfortunately, my son Nicholas passed away a few years ago at the age of 19. But it didn't stop my passion for helping our families or continue to fight the fight to try to get the families to think about the future for these individuals. So that's really how it started. It just never ended. So that's what I continue to do. I work with advisors to help them with the families they plan with.
Well, that's really a powerful perspective, Kelly. And certainly applaud you for continuing that passion and commitment, knowing what you went through personally. Before we talk about things that advisors should be thinking about, this is very overwhelming for anyone. You said your husband's a lawyer, you're prepared. I mean, I've been in wealth management. I think I'm prepared, but I realize when it comes to special needs, I feel I'm never as prepared as I should be. Now let's talk about, if it's an overwhelming thing for many parents, where do you think they should start?
I would start with little bites. It's extremely overwhelming. Even me doing this for a living, it took us a long time to sit down and actually start the planning for my son. But I think no matter the age of the person, it's never too late or never too early. So I would say start by thinking in terms of what they need day to day. What type of services are you helping them with as a parent or a caregiver? And then go from there. Where will they live? Who will they live with? Will they be in a group home? Will they need a day program? Are they going to go to a university? And how do we make that happen? Because right now, typically our families are receiving services maybe for someone younger and everything is basically paid for. At the age of 18, it's a completely different ball game, no matter where they live. And that's when the real planning takes place. But years ago, we didn't plan for individuals with disabilities because we never thought they would outlive us. Now we have to. We're seeing more and more people with disabilities living much, much longer. People with disabilities, believe it or not, are the largest minority population in the country. And only about 10% of our families have planned. So we know it's overwhelming. I would just start thinking in terms of, what do I want the future to look like for them? And then go from there.
And that leads into a question I had. We talk a lot, or we hear a lot about a letter of intent. And a lot of my clients ask me, what is a letter of intent and why do I need one? So can you talk about a little bit how you frame the letter of intent? Because you talked about the vision, long-term vision, which I think that may help. But talk about how a family can utilize a letter of intent in their own planning.
Yeah, Charlie, I love the letter of intent. I give webinars about it. I speak at national conferences about it. How I describe it is a letter to the babysitter on steroids. When we had little kids and we'd have a babysitter come in, we would leave them a letter or, note saying, do this, don't do this, make sure this happens. That's exactly what it is. Not legally binding, but has been used in a court of law and has been upheld by many judges across the country. So if a family has nothing else, I'm not saying do this in place of your legal documents. Legal documents are always the best. But if you have done nothing else, it doesn't cost anything. At MassMutual, we have a form that people can fill out and they can put with their vital documents, and I can send it to you. So you can send it to any of your listeners so that they can start doing it. But what it does is it speaks about the day in and day out of that person. It speaks about what they like, what they don't like, where you want them to live. It speaks about religion. Mine personally, for my son Nicholas, people update them once a year. It's a booklet. You can put it in a notebook. The one that I had from my son Nicholas was about this big. I don't know if you can see my hands, but I'm tiny, but it was bigger than me. And I can tell you that it spoke about everything that we wanted for Nicholas because he was nonverbal. So I come from Massachusetts originally, but I have lived in the New York, New Jersey area for the last 35 years. But it had things like, don't ever take my kid to a Yankee game, because I think if he spoke, he'd say something like that. So is there anything that's unique to your family? I don't want him to live with XYZ because they've never been never been involved in their life. We have a very high divorce rate in this community. We have a lot of single parents that may feel adamant that, you know what, the mother or the dad was never around, and if something happens, they wouldn't want to live with them. Or maybe they don't want to live with the sibling that the parents are assuming they want to live with. You can put that in the letter of intent. He loves his brother. He wants him to take him out to dinner once a week, but he doesn't want to live with him. He loves broccoli. He loves to have his teeth brushed with cold water versus warm water. He loves chocolate. He hates chocolate. Whatever is unique to that individual. I spoke about, medications. My son was on the ketogenic diet many times. All kinds of medications that worked, lots that didn't work. Physicians that were wonderful, physicians I wouldn't send a dog to. Those are the things that the family can do. It's unique to the person. It's about the person you're caring for, or if the person is able, they can write it with you so that it speaks about, God forbid I don't come home tonight, a future caregiver can go in my house, pick this up and say, oh, this is what he likes to do. Or we definitely don't want to try that medication on him. Keeping everything you've done up here is no good. If something happens, I lived with my husband and there were things I did with my son that he wouldn't know about. Letter of intent is a great place. It's for all of our families to have. Leave it with your vital documents. Leave it with someone that knows where it is if something happens. But the letter of intent is really a letter of instruction about the person you're caring for. And I love the letter of intent, and I think all of our families should have them.
Yeah, Peter and I talk about it a lot. Peter has become an expert living, being partners for 25 years in business. I think he's heard me talk so much about this, and personally, how many hours I spend on the phone with Medicaid and tracking things down. But I think that is really, really important. The other thing, because we could go on for hours with this podcast, and we're certainly not ending yet. But the other important thing, I think, is setting up that special needs trust as possibly as early as you can. Because a lot of feedback, Kelly, I get, well, I don't know what to put in my special needs trust. It's not, and I try to tell, it doesn't matter at this point. So you talk about the importance and explain the difference between a first party and a third party. And I think this is really important for families to understand the difference.
Sure, absolutely. Well, a special needs trust is really what I describe to my families is a way to have the best of both worlds. You can get all the government benefits that are out there, and you could put $1 million in a trust, $10 million in a trust. It's a way to put money away for that individual outside of them getting government benefits. It preserves government benefits for that family. So up until the age of 18, most of our families are limited in what they're receiving for government benefits. At the age of 18, regardless of your capacity as a parent or a caregiver, the government is looking at the individual with the disability. So that individual could live in your home. You could be a millionaire. You could have tons of assets, tons of property. It doesn't matter. As long as the person with the disability does not have that in their name, they're eligible for every government benefit that's out there. And I won't even get into it because that's a whole nother podcast. Sure. How many benefits I could talk to you about. But at the end of the day, the way in which to put money away or save money for that person, ideally, is through a special needs trust. We also have ABLE accounts now, which are fantastic, but you can use the two together. Now, you had mentioned a first party and a third party special needs trust. I'll even take it further and talk about a self-settled trust and a pooled trust. What we see is that when a family wants to leave something, leave a legacy, leave money, leave life insurance to all of their children. For years, they were told, don't leave the one with special needs anything. You actually can if you have a special needs trust set up, or you have language in your will to have a special needs trust set up upon your death. So what it is a special needs trust can be a little pricey, depending upon where you live in the country. It could range anywhere from $1,000 to $8,000, depending on the bells and whistles. But what it does is that if you have life insurance, which is mostly what we see funding special needs trusts, most of our families don't have the money right now. They get the money upon someone's death. So if you have life insurance, even a term policy through work, you have a husband, the money automatically goes to the husband. But say you don't have a husband or the husband passed away, that money automatically goes to your children. If you don't have a special needs trust or language set up, it would go to that child that is getting disability payments, and they would stop. They'd lose their government programs as a result of not having it. Now, if you have one, and typically we see third-party special needs trust, which is a trust that's set up on behalf of the individual. The individual does not own the money. A first-party trust is exactly the same, but the difference is that the money was owned by the person with the disability, and upon the person's death, the government with the first-party trust has a right to lien that trust for anything that they've paid via Medicaid. Now, third-party trust, there is no payback. You could get millions of dollars from the government, and upon the person's death, any money that's in there can go back to the family, can go back to whomever you want. But a third-party trust has no payback provision. That's the one that we typically see. Now, people would say, Kelly, why would someone set up a first-party trust? Well, you have to, if somebody didn't do the proper planning and that person was left money straight out, their name was listed as a beneficiary, or somebody gave them money over $2,000, that money would have to go into a first-party special needs trust versus a third party. So a first party is usually money that's child support. Money can go into a first party trust, an automobile accident, a med mal accident, anything that the person with the disability was left the money. The type of trust that we see with our families are third party. There's also something called the self-settled trust, which came into play when the ABLE accounts came into play, that a person with a disability could set up their own special needs trust. And then there's a pooled trust. For a lot of nonprofits have pooled trusts that, maybe you don't have a large amount of money, and you can put it in with a nonprofit that has a pooled trust. The person you're caring for gets it while they're alive. And sometimes when they pass away, the money goes to that nonprofit. Not always, but that's typically a pool trust. What we see with our families are third-party special needs trust. They have it set up. They have it ready to go. Most of them don't have it funded. Many of our families fund it with life insurance. That's typically how they do it. So when our families say, Kelly, I don't have money for a special needs trust, it's not uncommon. But once you have money to put in that trust, it can be utilized for something called qualified disability expenses, which are expenses that are going to benefit the person with the disability. It's not going to benefit the whole family. It's going to benefit that person. So you can utilize that special needs trust to take that person on a trip once a year, or take that person out to dinner. Can you take the whole family on that trip? No, but you can utilize the trust to pay for that person and a care provider. You can use that trust to do a sensory room, to buy a vehicle, to do anything that's going to make the quality of that person's life better. It has to be a qualified disability expense, but it is a way to allow them to receive money and still receive government benefits. Best of both worlds. That's how I describe it.
Kelly, who would you suggest being a trustee on the special needs trust? Would you suggest family members, or would it be a corporate trustee, or either? Is there any specific?
It's a great question, Pete. It's sometimes, it depends on the situation, right? I always think in terms of family members are nice, but I like the corporate trustee. I like that extra set of eyes on there. Even with my own son's trust, I had a corporate trustee because I have great kids. They're definitely responsible, but I wanted someone else to look at it. I mean, God forbid something happened to one of them, who's going to step in? When you have a corporate trustee, they kind of oversee that the taxes are filed. Everything's done appropriately. You're taking out for qualified disability expenses. But do we have lots of families that want a sibling or a cousin or something? Absolutely, but they can be in there with a corporate trustee. If it's a relatively small trust, you can have a family member because there's not that much money. But when we're dealing with a lot of our families they don't have any money in it now, but when life insurance goes in, it's a large amount of money. So you want to make sure that everything is done correctly. Now, keep in mind, the government oversees these trusts, just like ABLE accounts, to verify that, with the special needs trust, that it's not a first-party trust with a payback provision, but also that anything that's being used out of these trusts are qualified disability expenses. So siblings are okay. I had my son's siblings all involved in his trust, but at the end of the day, I had a corporate trustee because I needed that extra layer, because once the money was gone, Nick had no way to get any other money. So I really wanted to preserve it.
Yeah. And Kelly, a couple of weeks ago, you were nice enough to speak to a client of ours, and she was talking to you about how she was using some of the money she was getting on behalf of her son. And you said something that probably made her think differently. And I think a lot of families don't realize the scrutiny that they can be under with those funds. So can you talk a little bit about that as well, what parents should really watch out for when receiving benefits?
Right. Well, the thing, Charlie, that I always try to remind them is the benefit is for the person with the disability. It is a benefit that we receive as parents or caregivers to help support them, right? Over the age of 18, there were things with my son that, still wearing diapers, things that, a typical 18-year-old you're not doing. When the government gives you money, it's to help with the lodging and the day-to-day. You need to be spending that money on the things, the lodging and the things for that individual. The money is not for your family to make your family, not have to work and not do anything. There are parental obligations that we have. But after the age of 18, if the government is giving you money, that is supporting that individual, and you need to spend it on that individual. They're not going to continue to give you a check every month that you're not putting towards their rent, their food, their day program, their transportation. That's what it's for. So the government is scrutinizing that you're utilizing it for the individual. And trust me, I know as a caregiver, there's a lot that we do as parents and caregivers that are crazy. But at the end of the day, that check is not for us unless you've been hired. There are states in which you can be hired as a care provider for that individual, but you are paid separately. When the person is getting a check, you need to spend the check on that person, and you need to spend it on qualified disability expenses. So I always warn my families, Charlie, because I think that some of them end up thinking, well, I'm going to put the money away for them. I'm getting a check every month. I'm going to go stash it. That's not really what it's about. We're not trying to make these people rich. We're trying to support and help them with the day-to-day living.
Yeah. And again, it's so important sometimes to really have a diary of what you spend. So if the government does come knocking on your door, you could say, hey, these are the qualified dollars I was using for my son or daughter. I think it's really important. Kelly, the other thing where I think there's some confusion is when a parent starts collecting their own Social Security. How does that impact the Social Security disability income for the son or daughter on the spectrum?
What happens is when you retire, and it doesn't matter if you go out early or late, the person with the disability that your adult child with a disability, it used to be called DAC, dependent adult child, and now it's called the Childhood Disability Benefit. So when you retire, regardless of the age, they're going to get the max that you would have gotten. Not if you waited until 70, they're not going to get the higher amount.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get the amount that you would have gotten at your regular retirement age. So when people say, Kelly, should I wait a few years so my son gets more? No reason to. If you retire at 62, your payments are going to be based on you being 62, but the child with the disability is going to be the full retirement amount. So what happens is if you're going to get $500 a month, your adult child with a disability is going to get 50%. Now, does that mean that your $500 is reduced? Absolutely not. You will get that $500. They will get $250 while you're alive, in addition to their Social Security. Now, when you pass away, they will get 75% of that $500 for the rest of their life. They don't have to live with you. They could live somewhere else. And what will happen is the only risk is if they have a parent that's getting a very high payment, they could lose their Social Security, but the dependent adult child benefit could be more than when they're getting in Social Security. So there's no downside to the dependent adult child or the childhood disability benefit. And if, say, there's two of you and you go out first, but when your wife goes out, she's got a higher amount than you had. The dependent adult child or the adult child with a disability can switch over to that higher amount and get that higher amount 50% and then 75% for the rest of their life. So it is the one benefit that I can say that is missed all the time. They're not told about it. They don't know about it. So when they retire, it's not like Social Security is saying, hey, do you have a child with a disability or an adult child? They're not. Our families need to know about it so they can apply for it.
Every state has different. In New York, we have self-direction. I get a budget for my two boys. We utilize it the way we see fit for them, but solely for them. Are you concerned at all about these Medicaid cuts and what that may do to some of these programs that impact special needs?
I haven't seen actual cuts as of yet. I am actively involved with many nonprofits, but I also sit on the National Board for United Cerebral Palsy. Prior to that, I was on the National Board of the ARC of the U.S. So I am very involved in what's going on in the Hill. And, we're always concerned. But as planners, we always tell our families, even before the big, beautiful bill or anything else, don't depend on government benefits 100%. I mean, there are going to be basic ones that our population will never lose. There are people that are at risk for programs and some things they may lose. But from everything that we've understood, the ones that really need these benefits will continue to receive those benefits and not see those major cuts. But if we do, we're concerned, but that's more the reason that some of our families need to think about planning for these individuals, because the basics are going to be there from the government, but the over and above that maybe you're getting now via a program or extra money, that may not happen. So we do try to alert our families that they should be aware of what's being cut, try to plan ahead, but also if they can put a little money away or create an ABLE account or do something for our families, that's great as well.
Right. If you had 3 minutes with a family that for the first time is starting to sit down and think about, what should I be doing? What should my planning be? If you had 3 minutes, how would you sum up to this family what to start doing?
I would say to them, walk me through a day in the life of your child or your adult child. Tell me what they do every day, and tell me what you do to help them get through the day. Because when it comes to planning, once I hear that, Kelly, I get them up in the morning, I put them on the bus, I have somebody come in the afternoon. I know in my head what's needed, and they will know as well. You know, we don't realize as care providers all the things that we do. When we get them their cereal every morning, when we put them on the bus, when we have to take them somewhere. We're parents, so we just say, you know, we do it. But what if you're not there? Who's going to fill in for all these things that we do? So what I say, if I have 3 minutes with them, is talk to me about what you do every day. Talk to me about what you'd like to see in the future. And right then, I know what type of planning is going to occur, because, you know, not everybody has millions of dollars to have all these things provided. So what can we plan for from the government and from us to make this person's quality of life the same when you're not around? So that's really what I would do. I'd talk to them about the day-to-day.
And that day-to-day changes, right? We all know.
It changes.
Every day it's a little
never
different.
The same.
Every day.
But, you know, and we do a lot as caregivers. You know, we don't even realize all those things you'd have to pay for. You know, somebody to take them to school when they're adults, or, you know, even the socialization. It's so important as they get older. You know, we may have to pay for that. Others don't have to pay for that, but maybe we would have to pay to have that socialization happen.
Yeah, it is so true. Kelly, if people want to go, what is the website at MassMutual if somebody wants to go and learn more about the program that you oversee at MassMutual? It
is the MassMutual Special Care Program. If you go into the MassMutual website and you put in special care, you will land in my mailbox, and anything that I can help with, I'm happy to help with.
As you know, I look from more of the outside looking in, you know, especially seeing Charlie's day to day. You know, one thing that I could probably share is just some of the observation that I've made is, you know, Charlie tends to always surround himself with good advocates, resources, and support groups, and those that have possibly even done it ahead of him. And so as I see that, I think that's very, very important. Don't go, you know, through this journey yourself. Always look to surround yourself with those that have been through it, but also are valuable resources and can help you, you know, moving forward.
Peter, 100%. I've learned more from other parents than anybody else. But when it comes to attorneys, comes to financial professionals, come to accountants, those are people that should know about our world. Yeah. Doesn't mean you have to have a child or an adult child with a disability, but if you've only done 1 or 2 trusts a year, you're not the attorney I'm going to work with. If you've never done any type of accounting for a family with a special needs dependent, you're not my accountant. You do need to surround yourself with people that know more than you do. That's how I've learned. People that are self-advocates and advocates for individuals with disabilities know more than we could possibly know. So 100% support groups, everything you've said, I totally agree with, and I participate in most of the above every day. So definitely teaches you on a daily basis, so you're not alone. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a great way to end it, and certainly we never stop learning. I'm always trying to learn more, and that's why I'm so grateful to have you, Kelly, and now have a great resource for our clients to reach out to. And again, so appreciative of everything you do. And to our listeners, you can always reach out to us, to Peter and myself, going to YourPathwaysToWealth.com. Whatever resources we can share with you, we're here to do that. So we thank you for listening. Thank you again, Kelly, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.
Thank you so much.
To connect with Charlie or Peter, visit them at YourPathwaysToWealth.com or call them 631-777-1030. That's 631-777-1030. The material and the opinions voiced are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or entity. To determine what is appropriate for you, please contact your financial professional.